Well, Justin's muted again. What up, everybody?
Oh,
Oh,
taken
there we
aback
go.
by the fact that my background is gone all of a sudden.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, bro. Hold on. Let me pull this up. Professional show here. I feel like we go through this every week. It's just part of the process. You know what I'm saying?
There we go.
Welcome in to Nebraska Huskers Live. Now that you know what show you're on, you are in the right place. And the football season is getting here quickly, but slowly at the same time, I would say. Naturally, we're in that part of the season. But we're going to break down some, happenings of this week, and then we're also going to dive into a little bit of a breakdown of how Nebraska's offensive line matches up against a lot of the opponents on the schedule, or every opponent on the schedule this year, and see, if the O-line, just kind of what advantageous matchups they have and which ones we should potentially be concerned about, and just how, should we be that worried about the O-line considering the matchups, and should we be worried in general? So we're just going to break that down a little bit more in detail. First things first, Brian, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I am getting ready to head back to Texas actually again in the morning. So I'm pretty excited to go back down.
Beautiful, beautiful, great state of Texas. Glad you're falling in love with it nonetheless.
Yeah, I loved it out there.
Great. I'm glad you discovered the food.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Big difference.
My daughter got a brisket burger that was probably some of the best brisket I've ever had in my life. And I love that my oldest daughter loves barbecue.
Yeah.
Like as much as anybody. And she's so like ingrained in, like, every time we went out to eat, she's like, I want to get something like traditional to Texas barbecue, brisket, ribs or whatever. It was awesome.
You can't beat the brisket, man. I've yet to find anything that resembles Texas brisket even remotely out here. So I just don't eat it unless I smoke it myself. So, but let's go ahead and dive into some of the things, the happenings this week. And, let's just start off the top with we had some single-digit numbers given away. So Mr. Dane Key, along with Riley Van Poppel, and this is something that I just tweeted a little bit ago, but I kind of thought about this when I saw you gotten it. But thinking back, I was like, Matt Rule's really never given a single preseason single-digit number to anything under a junior. It's always been seniors and juniors. And Shaver's got one midway through last year because Jamari Butler switched his number to 10. However, Riley Van Poppel is the first person or the first sophomore underclassman in general to get a single-digit number since Rule's been here. So that says a lot about what Matt Rule thinks about RVP.
Well, I remember when they redshirted him last year. Sorry, my dog is like butting into me right now. Go. When they redshirted him last year, I was like, that's such a big risk because you could see really early his true freshman season, kind of his talent. You think back to those Iowa games where he kind of just not took over, but was very damn good for a true freshman, and then played a little bit last year. So I'm not surprised by any means about RVP getting that single digit. I think he's probably the person on the defensive line right now that I am like the most high on in terms of his potential and what he can be. So Coach Rule has been pumping him up all year, off season. Same with John Butler. I'm curious when we can finally hear Terry Braden speak. I want to hear more from Coach Braden on what he thinks of not only just RVP but his whole group, because we haven't heard much from him.
Yeah, and I think part of what we're, what's a good thing about us seeing that is it was about a 70-30 split, seniors to juniors, both 23 and 24, I think, when I looked at it. But I think this goes to show, I think this is kind of showing where we want to be in terms of that development. Now we have not only upperclassmen leaders exemplifying what it means to be, in the single digits, but now we have upperclassmen stepping their way into that ranks, which kind of shows that, like, okay, like this is kind of the emergence of year 3, those guys that, so maybe we'll see some more underclassmen in this year's single digit group and so on and so forth. But it's like the culture is implemented to the point where now these younger guys are coming in and learning kind of the standard and hard work from day one. It's not like they're coming in and taking a couple of years kind of light to learn it just because they're going to be redshirted or whatever. As soon as you get on campus, you're trying to earn your spot. So
There was a quote Coach Rule had the other day where he was talking about, even last year, there were still some people that, why are we doing this? I think he said like, they'd bring up like their friends at other schools and they're like, oh, they don't do this. And he said this year, there's no question, we're doing it because this is what we do at Nebraska. This is our style. This is our culture, etc. And I thought that was a revealing quote in the sense that even going into year 2, where you could probably see the culture shifting a little bit, you could see the progress they were making. There were still some people that were questioning things, which more than likely is your upperclassmen that are, quite frankly, have been around for the worst stretch of Nebraska football in a long time. So it's not, worried or anything that was happening. But I thought it was an interesting quote, a little illuminating kind of into the back, behind the scenes stuff that goes on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's I think we're getting a lot of good information over these last couple weeks too about where everything stands. What was the and you had talking about the Archie Wilson situation. I don't know if people have saw the Archie Wilson press conference. Was kind of, I feel like it's a good opportunity to kind of see the realness in him. Kind of see he's a family oriented guy, which is kind of a lot of what Matt Rule likes in players, guys that, are about family and stuff like that. And, but broke down after being asked about, what it's like being good distance away from his family, naturally. And, somebody had an issue with it. Who'd you say it was?
That was Mitch Sherman. And I didn't understand why he was so pissed off about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to put you on the spot there, but just in terms of context, we were just kind of talking about, not to put him down, but just just talking about it. I don't understand where, because again, I just think it's better than a lot of the questions that we would normally get. I think it's just better than a lot of the questions we would normally get, like, what is, what time do you wash your laundry on game nights, that type of stuff, the typical hard-hitting media questions. And then the time somebody ventures outside the box to ask a little bit more personal question, there's an issue with it. I think it's part.
He called him an asshole
for asking the question.
He said, "What asshole?" Yeah, he said, "What asshole would ask him what it's like to be away from his family for the first time?"
What professional would call a colleague an asshole because he asked a question? A good question.
I think it's a valid question, and I don't understand why Mitch Sherman was flipping out. But
I think it's good. I think it's good for the fans to kind of, again, see a different side of the players. Kind of helps connect the fan base to the players a little bit more to see kind of the raw emotion, and stuff like that. And I think it's only good.
I think it's good that he showed a little bit of vulnerability where. Yeah, it's tough. It's got to be tough. There's no one questioning that. But it's also, I think, important to know it puts a person behind the player in a sense, where I think we as fans can get locked in and just be like, well, that person's a player. And you forget there's a lot more behind the helmet. You know what I mean? And, I saw someone like in the comments or something was like, we should start a chant for him when he comes on the punt or something. And that's stuff we could do as fans. I think it was like a traditional thing they do in Australia. And I thought it's something like we would never have thought of as even a concept to do unless we got to see this side of him. And
right.
I personally had no issue with the question. It was like we were talking prior to the show where you deployed halfway around the world at 18 years old. And it's not an unfair question to be like, how are you handling being away from your family?
No, because sometimes it feels good to open up about that, and again, kind of like I could talk about too, probably feels good for him to, have people asking the question and can be concerned about that. But we found out a little bit more in detail about, his family will be out here for, I think he said the first few games or something like that. So that's good that they'll at least be coming out here and seeing him. So that'll make it a lot easier on him, but still, tough situation all around. But overall, I think that was a good question. But going into a little bit about Dane Key. Now, Dane Key, of course, the other single digit, number holder. The thing about Dane Key, and we've been high on him all offseason, but he, that vaunted 1,000 yard receiving mark is something he mentioned today. And, as like a goal for him. And I think that's, what he has done is exactly what the reason why this staff paid him the money they did is because they expected him to come in and, be a leader, be a voice, be, the upperclassman with experience and tough, competition in tough environments and stuff like that, and be able to lead, not let the money go to his head, just be able to lead and perform up to that standard and the standard at Nebraska. And it seems like he hit the ground running in that regard. And you got to think, like, if anybody's going to be primed and ready for a 1,000-yard season, without a doubt, it's going to be him.
I really like the series they're doing with Coach Rule, where he's kind of like walking on the field and talking. And I don't know if you had seen the clip with him and Dane walking, and he'd asked Dane, like, what is something that you did to earn this trust and this respect from your teammates early? And he was like, man, I just, I came in and I was myself, and they embraced me in the culture. And I think that's really big. And you can, especially now when you're having so much money thrown around, like you mentioned, with what Nebraska paid him is a substantial amount of change. And it's easy to come in and be like, you know what, man, they're paying me $700,000 a year or whatever that number is. I'm the big dog, and just be a total arrogant prick. But he's done the complete opposite. And I think that's really important as a leader, to kind of be humble and remember, like, yeah, at one point I was this clueless freshman at Kentucky, and I can now, with my experience, bring up this younger group, because that's exactly why he was brought here. Like you mentioned, you got Ja'Cory, who's still a true sophomore. You've got Cortez. You've got Quinn Clark and Keelan Smith, and those are guys that are going to be ready to take his spot once he goes on to the next phase of his career next season, after this next season.
Yeah. For them, it wasn't about just finding a really good wide receiver talent. Like, they wanted to go above and beyond to find a wide receiver talent who can lead that room, because it's such a young room. And there's so many young guys that can learn so much from Dane Key. Dane Key's matched up against the top of the top in the SEC and had success just based on his pure route running ability and his overall ability as a receiver. So, the sky's the limit really for him this season. And just with the weapons around him, 1,000 yards,
now,
without a doubt, not out of the realm of possibility.
That's what I was just going to go into, was just, how realistic is it? I mean, Trey's got the record, which was like 1,000 and like 100 yards or 1,073 yards. So, like, it's not, that's what I look at as who's going to be the next record breaker. For me personally, I think there's so many weapons on this offense where, like, he may be your leading yards receiver with maybe 50, 55 catches and 850, 900, 950 yards. And that's still a damn good season. So does he have that chance? Absolutely. I think there's just more weapons on our offense than when we had a guy like Trey Palmer, because Trey Palmer was literally the only option at receiver.
Yeah. Essentially, this is going to be an offense where the ball's going to go to the open man. And if, he's, the thing about it, if he doesn't have 1,000 yards, that doesn't mean he didn't make this team better than if he did have 1,000 yards. If he has 1,000 yards and you're kind of forcing throws to him, it's a whole different animal than if he's getting doubled and not getting the ball because you're taking attention off of another guy who's getting the ball, getting open. That team kind of aspect of it, of course. So, that's another factor there. It's just the decoy of a guy with that level of talent. And, so numbers only go, but our offense could just absolutely go berserk this year for all we know.
And, it could go nuts.
So again, not out of the realm of possibility by any stretch, but yeah, old Trey Palmer with the Trey's down there somewhere. Jackson Johnson
disappeared.
Jackson Johnson's head popped up in the picture this time. At least it's not some random Iowa logo. Go Little Red. Thanks, Bone Led. What's up, family? What's up, Ron? Appreciate you hopping in here. R-Truth. Go Big Red, William Adair, Bone Led Cornfed. My app is buffering. Well, figure it out, Bone Led. What's up with this big bruiser of a tailback? We'll go into the running back room in a little bit. What's up, Rashawn? Speaking of running back room, what's going on? Great day, fellas. Great day, Rashawn. Appreciate you hopping in here, sir. Let's go on another great Tuesday with Justin and Brian. Appreciate you, man. David, thank you so much. You can smoke meat. I thought only drugs and cigs could be smoked. Oh boy. Bone Led, you've missed out on some food.
Yeah, it's the greatest food ever.
Smoke there's none better than smoked, overnight seeps in there, all the juices and all the flavor seeps in. Oh my God, nothing like it. What's going on, Christian? Go Big Red. Can it just be kickoff already? I just watched all of his tape. He's so tough. His hands are great. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so y'all keep dropping your comments in here. Anything update wise else that oh my God, I'm echoing.
Uno momento.
Yeah, leave. Get out of here. Come down to Texas. I'll smoke some brisket for y'all. Absolutely, man. What part of Texas? I'm from Houston, so I'm down there pretty regularly. So, all right, we're good now. Okay. Yeah. Other updates on anything else this week, Brian? Do you want to take that away?
There was some injury bugs or whatever. Dane Key missed a few days last week, but he was back today, I believe. Quentin Ives, I think, is probably more injured than being led on. I think I read a report today that he tried to jump into a drill and Coach Barthel had to tell him to get out of it because he's not cleared completely for drills yet. And ironically, it was the drill in which he got hurt in on day 1 or day 2 of fall camp.
He wanted to go beat that drill.
Yeah. And then I think there's one more injury that I think was a little bit bigger than being led on. That's Jamarian Parker, which I believe actually Rashawn told us probably a couple weeks ago, or probably a month or so ago, that it was not looking as good. I think Jamarian's very much at risk for missing the entirety of the season with a knee injury. But I also think back to Quentin Ives a little bit. I think part of them being a little more cautious with him is because of the rise of Mackay and because of the rise of Isaiah Mosey. By all accounts, they're phenomenal. And I loved Coach Rule's comments this week was, I hate this narrative like that we don't have great backs. Like if you don't think we have great backs, you are going to see, because Isaiah and Mackay are very damn good backs, very talented running backs. And then Connor Booth is another running back to keep tabs on. I know you said we'd jump into it in a minute, but it's what's on the top of my mind. But Connor Booth is someone I'd keep tabs on too for some early playing time, especially against like the.
Now let's just dive into that run. Let's just dive into the running back room comments. So you can go ahead and elaborate.
Yeah, I think Connor Booth is surprising a lot right now with how talented he is for having come from Wahoo Bishop Newman, which, you know, for people that aren't familiar with Class C1 Nebraska football, I mean, it's not the greatest competition. Like he dominated, which is what you would want from a Power 5 running back or a Power 4 running back at that level. He's come back from his knee injury, surgery, whatever. Very good, very powerful, surprisingly good pass blocker. Speed is actually probably better than what it was listed at in high school. I believe at the Navy Army combine thing, they clocked him at like a 4.6. I'm of the belief he's probably closer to a 4.5, if not a little bit lower. And then Vincent Genatone is a guy to keep tabs on. They moved him over from linebacker. This was a guy I've talked about on my X account for probably a year and a half, and then on this channel as well, where last year or 2 years ago at Montana or Montana State, wherever he was at, was projected to be their starting linebacker and their starting kick returner. He's 6 foot, 230 pounds, and he runs like probably a 4.4, if not closer to a 4.3 40. He's very freaking athletic for how big he is. He just really has been kind of positionless at Nebraska. And so that's someone I don't think he's going to play a ton, if at all. But if Quentin's injury is worse than what we think, he's going to be a big, powerful back that can come in and get you that 2 or 3 yards when you need it.
Yeah, agreed. And kind of looking over, you know, at the running back room too. I mean, looking at last year's Ramir, Emmett, Gabe, Dowdle, Kenneth Williams, Ives, you know, Mackay, Mazuka, you know, honestly, like, is it just me or does, you know, not only this running back room have younger legs, but I feel like a lot more versatility. I feel like this running back room is way more versatile than we've seen in previous years. I think that's another big part of what's going to make it successful.
Well, I think back to Gabe, and even when he was healthy, was not much of a receiving threat. And there was a stat last year that when Dante was the running back end, that they were running like 93% clip. So again, like you said, very one-dimensional in that aspect. Right now, with this room, you could literally do whatever the hell you want. I think so. because they're all going to be very good in all three phases of the running game: passing, running, and pass blocking, I think. And they're all not small, but they're not huge either. They're such very unique. They're all in like that 195, 210, 215 range, with the exception of Connor Booth. So they're going to be durable is where I'm getting with that point.
Yeah, explosive, athletic and stuff like that. So yeah, again, just over time, like we haven't had the greatest running back rooms, and I do think the upside here is better than the upside we've had in a long time. I think that's one of the things where we're looking at this and comparing it, to a running back room like Ohio State of the world, where they go get two big transfers, they have years of development, stuff like that. But I still think, overall, looking at some of these positions they need, and again, we'll go into the O-line in just a second. I just think there's a lot more to be excited about than not. It's just, again, experience.
Yeah, that's always been our red flag, for lack of a better term.
But just in general, just like I was just kind of thinking about that. Just the overall flexibility of this running back room is something we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Short yardage back could be interesting. Absolutely. I lived in North Houston as well as Austin. Now I'm in the North DFW area. Gross. There's a lot of Husker hype videos I watch. They're awesome. Yes, they are. It's Class C1 Norfolk Catholic rules it in football. What?
Class C1 Norfolk Catholic rules it in football.
Oh, do they?
I think they're the best in C1.
Oh, okay. I thought Bone Lab was smoking some of that stuff he was talking about earlier. They have another short yards back. He plays special teams too, but his name escaped me. Connor Booth?
I think the main one's going to be Connor Booth and Vincent Genatone. There's the one that Kenneth Walker, I believe is his name, that did the kick return against BC in the bowl game, but he's not a short yardage back. He's 5'8", 175 pounds.
Yeah, he's a little bitty. All right. Was there anything else before we move on to kind of the O-line breakdown?
No, I think that covered it.
Okay. Yeah, this is kind of a thought process I wanted to do here, but just kind of, in looking at getting ready for the season, we talked a lot about the O-line this off season, but I just kind of want to see just how schedule for schedule we match up against the other defensive lines in the Big Ten, and which I would go game by game. I think the biggest thing, of course, this year, and also focusing, I went in a little detail of how Nebraska can scheme up against some of these defensive lines. Now, of course, defensive lines, maybe I didn't get everything right in terms of who's going to be starting and stuff like that, but I tried to do as much research as I could on it. So, but let's go ahead and dive into it. But I blocked off Cincinnati, Akron, Houston, Christian as kind of a three-part here, but just because I think we're going to see a very simplified playbook. I think we're going to see kind of a lot of zone run, quick pass stuff, max protect type of deals, not a lot of risk, sliding protections. And I just think I think that's one of the biggest things is just running downhill early, build momentum, quick passes to get let the O-line get up and reset. And then I just think those are going to be about sticking to what and executing at a high level.
Yeah, and the big thing too, in terms of you're talking about our offensive line versus their defensive line. My big concern is always going to be the tackles right now, just because if it's Teddy, it's coming off of an injury. If it's Pritchett, you don't entirely know what you have. If it's Gunner, you're got a tackle coming off an injury there as well. So even if it's Tyler Kanak, where he hasn't played a ton over his career, so I look at that specifically at tackle. By all accounts, they're all doing very well, but that's always just going to be my biggest concern, regardless of who we're playing, honestly. Even if we have way better talent, it's just how those tackles hold up against our Russians right now.
Right. And we can say that for every game. But in terms of how Nebraska's offensive line can gain an advantage, et cetera, and, in what ways they can overcome that, yeah. I
think they're going to do I just totally lost my train of thought. Sorry, but I think I was going. They're going to be using a lot of inline tight ends to help too with the offensive line early if they struggle. That's one thing I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'm surprised they didn't do that a lot last year, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't recall a lot of tight ends helping.
Me neither. No. Looking at Michigan. All right, let's this is naturally probably this is a top 10 defensive line, our second toughest defensive line we're going to face on our schedule behind, of course, we all know Penn State. But, Michigan, they lost some stars on the defensive line, but as usual, they reload. They got experience, depth. They recruit incoming 5 stars on the defensive line. So this is going to really kind of test the athleticism of some of our youngsters. Like I think Williams and Wannery is going to need to be big in this game. Discipline, like gap control, is going to be something that, like, on our defensive line is going to be something that we need to do well. For our offensive line, I just think like handling, they're so big and strong up front, right? And I think that's something that Nebraska is not to that level just quite yet. And the physical, how big and strong Michigan's O-line is, just because, again, depth. But they're going to have to be smart with the substitutions. They're going to have to really just make sure that early on in the game they protect Raiola. And I think it's just going to be a matter of trying to get quick handoffs, attack where there's space, and just be quick and methodical with your approach. Again, give your line time to rotate, rest, reset, and try to keep them as fresh as possible.
So I am looking at Michigan's O-line just out of curiosity. I wanted to see their size. Boy, do they got some big dudes.
Yeah, they do.
They, across the board here, just quick overview, not even looking at names, looking at weights. I don't think they have a guy under 315.
It's a massive unit.
They don't have they have one guy under 315. He's 308, and he is a freshman, so he probably won't even play.
Yep.
Where
unit.
Yeah, where I wanted to look at that because I knew they'd have a big physical line, like you mentioned, but Nebraska's size on defensive line is not great.
More so, probably athleticism is on our side.
Yeah, and that might be where overall I think Nebraska makes up their difference. I think their athleticism year over year is way better. Yep. And that could help us in this game quite a bit.
Yep, the biggest thing is just managing as best as you can those power plays. Trying to do what you can to get the biggest push you can. But again, I think it's a good opportunity for the offensive line to really, show the work they put in. Let's go ahead and move over to Michigan State. All right, so Michigan State, I guess just breaking down kind of what their defensive line is like. They are very physical. They're going to, test kind of, they're going to test the run fits and stuff like that. I think the biggest thing with Michigan State is going to be because, what they're going to want to do is, I feel like they're going to want to establish a run. They got a running, quarterback to an extent. I don't think he wasn't very refined, polished throwing the ball last year. So I don't know if we should expect a lot of that this year, but I do think what it's going to be is I think they're going to be, we're going to need to kind of isolate, with inside handoffs, and then kind of, again, set up the middle to kind of get the stuff stretched outside. So that way, when the physicality gets in the middle, it opens everything up a little bit more, creates those running lanes. Use running back like RPOs and stuff like that to counteract some of the pressure they're going to bring. But I think the biggest thing is just getting them, attack inside early to get them, crashing down on the interior. And then from there, just try to have a moving pocket, and I think Nebraska can win, again, athletically there, if they get the pocket rolling when they have those guys, focusing, hammering down on the inside. So it's Michigan State's physicality versus kind of Nebraska's athleticism and scheme again. But I think Nebraska is the more versatile offensive line versus their defensive line.
Yeah, this is another big physical defensive line. They're all running in that, 290 to 300 range outside their edge players. I'm curious from this perspective, seeing how Ruquan Buckley has developed at Michigan State, because he was a guy at Nebraska where He kind of played a little bit as a freshman. Now he's going into his senior season where he's in their rotation. He's 6'5", 325. He's put on a lot of weight since transferring to Michigan State. So I'm kind of curious how that rematch looks for him against Nebraska. But their offensive line is freaking huge. Yep. I'm actually quite shocked looking at this. Again, this is another offensive line that is in that 6'4" to 6'7" range, 300 to 315. They got a freaking monster 335-pound offensive lineman. And then they have one defensive lineman that's like 350 or 340, I think is what it said. So it's basically the same thing as Michigan, just probably less talented.
Yeah. Huge drop off in talent. I think schematically it's going to be kind of hopefully, implementing a very similar approach. I think I wish it went Michigan State, Michigan. So we kind of have a little bit of a setup lead into that. Yeah. A little bit of a warm up there, but Michigan State not really going to be very good this year, but I think they're going to have their moments. I think they're going to have their games because I think with Aiden Childs at quarterback, they can be explosive at times.
Yeah, they can.
He can move. He can throw the ball with accuracy. Sometimes he threw that touchdown. Oh no, it wasn't him that threw that, but yeah, I just think there's opportunities there, but just no consistency.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's which Childs do you get in Lincoln when they come here, and if it's the one that was basically an average QB the majority of last season, then I have zero concerns. And if it's the one that shows up sporadically that looks like a pretty decent quarterback, maybe you have a little bit of concerns, even though their guys are huge. Their athletic profile is substantially worse. So, I think this is a game Nebraska probably takes pretty easily.
Pretty handily. Yep. Maryland, October 11th. So this is at Maryland. Maryland really not. They're an average offensive line. I think that's about our average defensive line, about middle tier. Somewhat sturdy, but I think Nebraska is just again. I think they're not only more athletic here. I think they're bigger and stronger, and a more cohesive unit too. I just think they. So I think they got the clear advantage over Maryland.
Oh yeah, this game. I have zero concerns about. The only way I get concerned is just the travel part of it. But from a physical standpoint, their defensive line really does not concern me by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I think we're going to be able to really kind of stretch their linebackers, thin and really be able to kind of keep a lot of pressure off, in that second level, especially. So, moving on to Minnesota. Now, Minnesota's an interesting one.
Yes,
because they are a very physical, like tradition, run heavy kind of front style. We know what style we're going to get with Minnesota. It's that very, cohesive physical unit that doesn't really beat themselves, make a lot of execution mistakes. I think the biggest thing for an opponent like Minnesota is you got to force them into mistakes, so trying to run, offensively, a lot of misdirection stuff to keep their defensive line from over pursuing, because they tend to, their defensive line, again, it's a pretty big unit. So using tight ends to like motion around, shift matchups, try to set yourself up in the most advanced. I think Kurt Soroka does a good job of this at Rutgers. When I was listening to kind of his breakdown of how he runs his offense, it's creating those advantages in numbers, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest things there is okay, if they're disciplined, let's try to beat them in numbers, or let's try to get them, counter play. Let's try to get them over pursuit or something like that. And, I think this one's a toss-up. I think this one's a 50-50. So, this one's tough.
Yeah, I've never liked this game. And in particular, the schedule placement of this game where you're going 1 week to Maryland, then you're going up to Minnesota on a short week. I don't know what time the Maryland game is going to be, but if it's a 2:30 kick, you're getting over at 6:30. You're not getting on an airplane until 7 p.m. Eastern time, flying back to Lincoln. You're not getting home till the wee hours of the morning on Sunday. And then Monday, you're jumping right into it. By probably Wednesday afternoon, early evening, you're flying up to Minnesota. this is a terribly placed game. That's why it concerns me more than anything. I think Nebraska is way more talented. They've actually always been more talented, but it's PJ Fleck, who, as much as I dislike him as a person, is a freaking phenomenal coach that does exactly what they want, how they want it, and they don't change who they are, as bizarre of a human as he is. And he always has a pretty solid offensive line. He always has a pretty decent defensive line as well.
Yep. No, I agree. This one's about as 50-50 as it gets. Good litmus test for Nebraska on a tough road environment, though.
Yeah.
And see how they
that place is underrated.
Yep. Moving on to Northwestern, October 25th. So not a very explosive defensive unit here. Not a very explosive defensive line. I think we can get away with kind of simple zone run concepts here. Counters, power, just really kind of just beat them up at the point of attack, keep the O-line fresh with rotations, just control the line of scrimmage. I think this is an easy game for Nebraska to kind of control that line of scrimmage and the tempo of the game.
I believe their coach he was the interim coach when Fitzgerald, and then they had that one good season. They've been crap since.
Well, he did a fantastic job filling in. Played a lot of, even Indiana last year, they beat our brakes off. Minnesota had played them, fairly close for the majority of the game the week prior. So, he brought just kind of a fire and a tenacity to that team to the back half of that season. But it's a whole different ball game when you're the head coach of Northwestern. Just not a lot of resources and stuff.
Yeah, this is a game I fully expect Nebraska's offensive line from the jump to completely dominate. I mean, this is a game I think we're averaging over 5.5 yards carry. And I think that's a realistic expectation against this defensive line at Northwestern. They're not big. Biggest guys like 285. They have one guy that's 300 pounds. And he's not, most of these guys are just okay players at best. Offensive line, is not that great either. Who was that big lineman they had a couple years ago? Was that Slater?
I can't.
Brown?
It's on my offensive line?
Yeah.
I can't. Oh, no, I don't think it was.
I think it was Rashawn Slater.
I don't know. I don't think it was Slater. Hold on.
While you look that up, I'll continue my thought. But it's not that type of line. They don't have anybody even remotely close. Skaronski, that's who I'm thinking of. Yeah, they don't have anyone remotely close to his talent level. And even then, too, it's a smaller O-line. They're all in that, except for one or two guys, they're in that, 6'4", 6'5", 300-pound range. Nebraska's athleticism on the defensive line should be able to push this line back with relative ease. I think so. Yeah,
I'd have to agree with that. Moving on. Big time game here. USC brings a different element defensively than I think we've seen from a lot of the other teams leading up to this point of the schedule. For them, it's about, stunts, speed, disruptions laterally, more so than anything. And so I think what Nebraska needs to do offensively is, you got to combat the stunts, somehow. So, maybe combination blocks, getting to that second level, slide protection, so you can kind of do your best to kind of combat some of those, but you got to be right with your reads. You got to be quick with your reads. So the offensive line is going to have to, if we're setting up combo blocks, we're hitting one, getting to the second level, they need to be quick with that. And that's the way that they're going to have success. Right now, I might lean a little bit towards USC's defensive line, but we'll see.
I agree. As much as they've underperformed under Lincoln Riley, there's still a lot of talent there. There's a lot of guys that were 4- and 5-star recruits. They brought in a damn good defensive coordinator last year from UCLA who did a phenomenal job flipping that defense that was completely abysmal 2 years prior. Even Carlon Jones is there, former Husker commit. He'll probably play quite a bit at defensive tackle. He put on about 30 pounds. He's up to probably 310, 320 there.
I was expecting them to take a bigger jump last year, though, but maybe this year will be the year.
Yeah, I agree. I think last year was fairly disappointing for them, and I think part of their issue was they didn't have great quarterback play. Even I think Maeve is going to probably be their quarterback this year.
Yeah, Jay Maeva.
I think that's going to be what still holds them back because he is so turnover prone. But that's
Very
a conversation for another day.
Turnover worthy throws. Miller Moss led the country in turnover worthy throws before he decided to transfer out, and then Jaden Maava had just as many. He was up there in the turnover worthy throw department as well.
Well, even when they played Nebraska, he threw that pick 6 to Sierre.
Then nearly threw 2 other ones that were misplayed.
Yeah. Yep. And then I believe Ty is the one who had the strip sack. That game alone, he should have had 4, if not 5 turnovers for sure. Mm-hmm. In terms of their offensive line, it's hard to know. I don't honestly know too much about their offensive line. I wasn't overly impressed with them last year personally, but I think they'll be a decent group.
Yeah. UCLA. Now diving just a little bit into kind of what UCLA and what their strengths, I guess, are on their D line. They're pretty, athletic on the edge. One thing you got to worry about with them, if they were coming to our place, how they would play, in the weather and stuff like that. But going to UCLA, you don't have to worry about that, or travel fatigue, which we might have to worry about potentially at this point. But I think the biggest thing is, again, zone scheme, contain the edge. I think it's going to be the biggest thing. Is if you contain the edge, I think you win this game. I think it opens up a lot of doors for you. So I just think clear communication on the adjustments and quick substitutions, and just keep everything fresh.
That's going to be the most important thing for me, is this quick substitutions, keeping fresh, because they are freaking huge. It might surprise you, but they're probably one of the biggest offense and defensive lines Nebraska is going to go against this year. I'm not even kidding you. I'm looking at this, and
they're going to be good.
Is 6'6", 320 plus pounds. I am shooketh right now at how big they are.
They're going to be really good. Thing is, you're not that entire D line you're not going to be able to deal with, so you just got to take that strength away, for sure. But they're big.
They got a couple dudes on here that they brought in through the portal. I can't remember what his name was, but he was like 350 pounds. Mm-hmm. I think they brought in 2 big physical defensive tackles. Yeah, here they are. Oh gosh, they're Polynesian.
Yeah, I got their names on my.
I'm not even going to attempt it.
I got their names. I kind of did their defensive line breakdown with their names, and then on this other one, I put down my quick notes for the actual game. So I don't know what I did with my notes for the actual D line.
One of them is Gary Smith III. He's 6'2", 340. I believe he came from Duke, if I'm not mistaken. And then the other one is a Polynesian player that is 6'4", 335.
That's a big dude.
That's insane how
big
these dudes are. So that's my number one concern. In fact, I probably think that game you run sideline to sideline more than through them, and just wear their asses out.
Our offensive line, this matchup is more 50-50 than people, I think, realize.
Yeah, they got quietly good in the offseason. I mean, that's even before they got Nico.
They're not going to be, they're going to be really good, but I do think they might be a little underrated on the D line for sure.
Yeah, sure. I think they'll be a formidable opponent, and they'll probably be favored because they're at home.
I don't think they will be. I think I don't think UCLA, I don't know, is to that level. Let me see, what's their win total. I think we should win this one pretty.
I think their win total is low. I think they're in the 5 range, maybe 5.5.
Let's see. Gosh dang it, my mouse freezes up. Because I don't think they're getting a lot of love in that regard. I think it's more like 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, it was not good, which I think is because it's 5.5. And they're actually plus 130 to go.
So it's kind of solely in that trenches, like that D-line, O-line matchup, where I think they might just be able to cause some issues. But outside of that, team unit by unit, they're just not near the same level as Nebraska. Don't have near the depth And that's when they really start to struggle. And that's where I think Nebraska can even wear those down even under fatigue. And that's where those kind of quick substitutions and constantly, communicating is going to be important. Keep those legs fresh.
Yeah. I think that's going to be a game where Nebraska comes and just runs them to death in the sense of horizontally.
Yep.
Quick passes, get the ball in space.
Tack them up the middle, get the edge rushers on their heels, and that way it opens up the pass game. They can't pin their ears back when they're worried about that inside run if they're having to take a step back for a second. So, or drop into coverage because they're getting killed through the air. So, all right, it's a couple fun ones to end the season. Let's go ahead and dive into Penn State first. Now, Penn State, top 3 line in college football. Could probably argue the top defensive line in college football. Elite, they're disciplined. They got depth. I mean, they rotated 37 guys to a defense or something last year. Power front. The recipe here is do everything well. Heavy sets to get, physical pushes. I think the biggest thing, we might have to roll out a lot of, some screens early on to counteract, some of that pursuit from their defensive line. Every rep has just got to be executed to perfection. We got to have hot reads ready to go. We got to have running backs ready to get ready and kick out, try to stall edge pressure, et cetera. We just got to be locked in at every level there to deal with that defensive line for sure.
This is going to be a tough one for Nebraska. And you're looking at a very likely night game in Happy Valley. That's going to be tough. I don't know how. This is why Coach Rule and the staff, they get paid so much. They're going to have to figure out what they can do to slow that pressure down. This is the game where I think you see a lot of probably 21 personnel. You probably see them slow it down, control the ball, control the clock. I don't think they're going to be overly aggressive trying to score quick or anything like that, because I think Penn State is just so damn good on both sides. The line scrimmage.
It's going to be about ball control and trying to keep the ball out of their hands as much as possible. Methodical drives, wear the defensive line down. Which is hard to do.
It's like that game plan Frost had when we went to Oklahoma that one year with Adrian. That would be my expectation for a game plan where they're so damn talented, where you just have to win each quarter.
Exploit it.
And yeah, and winning does not mean you win 10-0 that quarter. It may be, maybe they score a touchdown and you don't, but you have them on the field for 13 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. And it's just in the fourth quarter that adds up.
Small battles. Yeah. So including the turnover margin. Can't turn the ball over there. So yeah, but the line will have valuable experience by that point of the season. So
yeah, that's one thing too.
Could be in for a surprise there, but we'll see. Iowa. Now Iowa, of course. Damn it, I'm echoing. Try this back out, come back in. 1 second, guys. Brian's really got to get his a new mic figured out so we don't continue all this echoing nonsense. Welcome back. Okay, we're good.
We'll get it fixed in like 3 weeks when I'm
about to buy you a new mic.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
This is the rival grind here. This is where numbers typically go out the window. Mm-hmm. But looking at kind of Iowa's style again, they don't beat themselves, powerful up front. They execute well. They know what they do. They stick to that. So I really think what Nebraska is going to have to do, with their D line, I think, last year we saw Iowa give up a little bit more explosive plays. So that does open up that part of the field too, and that could set us up, at an advantage up front if we're able to attack deeper in the field than usual. But zone running, zone style running here, getting a running back in as an extra blocker, tight ends are going to be, I think, very, very important here, trying to kind of wall guys off. But again, this has got to be execution to a T and zero turnover mentality, just like the previous week. especially in the last game of the season. Home game, though. So emotion could play a factor in this.
Yeah. I think Iowa's offensive line has progressively got worse year over year. They had, I think, one, if not two, first-team all-conference players on that offensive line last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they get the benefit of the doubt of who they are and their tradition on the offensive line. But make no mistake about it, their offensive line sucks. Nebraska dominated them for 59 minutes and 59 seconds in that game on our defensive line to their offensive line. They're terrible. They win because they just wait for you to screw up because they know something eventually is going to happen.
Yep.
And all the credit goes to Iowa because they know their model. They stick to it. They don't change who they are. They know they're going to have a shitty offense and a really good defense and really good special teams, and they're okay with beating you that way. That's Kirk Ferentz to a T.
Now, one thing I will say, though, their quarterback play did not help their O-line.
Yeah, the new quarterback they got is even worse. He sucks too. He wouldn't be third string on Nebraska. So
I'm not counting their O-line out completely, but to your point, they have been statistically worse. And last year was supposed to be the year that the group had kind of matured, improve execution and stuff like that. So, but position shuffles happen along the way as well. So unit consistency, we'll see how they kind of do that. But again, it hasn't been improving, that's for sure. Now they do have a new quarterback. We'll see. That remains to be seen. Again, I'm not going to give Iowa the benefit of the doubt on a quarterback until we kind of are able to see him on the field. But I think Iowa has a very specific style with their quarterbacks, and it's never something that's exceptional that you have to worry about. You never have to worry about the quarterback beating you with Iowa. You have to worry about Iowa beating you. That's the best way I can think to put it.
Yeah.
Like some teams you have to worry about the quarterback. You have to worry about Iowa,
Yeah.
Like
that Nebraska game last year was the perfect example of that. Their quarterback was absolute trash. He wouldn't start on most high school teams probably in the high level. I mean, he was freaking awful.
Yep.
And they still beat you.
Yeah.
And that's why, as much as I hate Iowa, I always give them credit because they know who they are. And they're okay with that.
Yeah, that's why I kind of settled on the zero turnover mentality is what we have to have, because if we don't turn the ball over, we'll have the edge.
Yeah, that game alone, we had a fumbled, non-muffed punt, but it was technically muffed. They recovered, which scored them 3 points, and then they forced a fumble.
Yep.
Won them the game.
Yep. Yeah, and again, I just think being able to attack that defense explosive deep now really hurts.
Yeah, I feel like their corners have gotten worse.
Yeah, their cornerback play has gotten worse. It's like especially at the safety position, because again they weren't supposed to be as weak in the safeties last year, but going to season prior, the only way we beat them over the top was actually a mistake by their defense. And then last year there was multiple opportunities that we had over the top. I mean, multiple. That I'm telling you, that one game is just because the previous year in Lincoln is because that safety, was cheating down because we couldn't throw the ball. He was cheating down, got a little overly aggressive and got beat over the top. And that was only because that safety was kind of cheating down. And then, again, last year we just missed so many open passes. So that defense can definitely be exploited deep, and I think it's going to take a lot of pressure off our O-line.
Absolutely, 100%.
One question for you, gentlemen: how do these Aussie guys do in the winter, since they don't get much experience practicing it? I guess we'll find out. But to be honest, cold versus warm, I mean, honestly, when you're an athlete, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. It may matter, when it comes to crunch time, and I'm talking the grind of a season, I'm talking like late season, stuff like that. But I don't think it's just the cold that does it. I think it's the grind plus the cold, but I think that happens to everybody.
Yeah.
So
he'll be all right.
We talk about that a lot, and I don't think it affects athletes as much as we think.
No, I mean, they played in freaking negative 10-degree weather in Green Bay like twice a year.
And a lot of those guys aren't from the Midwest. So doesn't sound like our D-line is too great. Mike, do you not pay attention to the shows?
I think it's pretty common that Rule thinks they're going to be a lot better than we do.
I mean, Riley Van Poppel just got a single digit. The games are all won by the lines. It's frustrating. Nebraska used to have the big O and D lines, not anymore. Well, nowadays you don't want to have the big O and D lines. You want to have the athletic, strong O and D lines. Mm-hmm. And Otto, hope our D line takes leaps in practice. Sounds like they got pushed around Saturday. Y'all got it. Y'all take everything negative and just blow it up. This is why they don't like talking about it.
It's going to be ups and downs. Like, that's okay.
It's each unit's going to win. A different unit's going to win in practice. That is part because again, we're talking about practice. They're practicing against another unit. Okay, that unit's strong one day, the other unit's. It's like that's the ebbs and flows. It's like sparring, man. I go in there and spar. Some days I win, some days I lose, bro. It's just part of the nature of the beast. But that's how you get better. You make mistakes and you learn from them. The line needs to be big and fast. That's what I just said. That they need to be strong and fast. They don't need to necessarily be big as long as you got the strength.
They were big under Frost, and they were not very good.
If you're athletic and strong, you're going to be fine. So I just joined behind, but you should know Mitch is the one who asked the question. Yes. Really hope our D-line improves even to an average unit. What? Mike.
That's insinuating they're a below average unit.
Mike, did somebody hack your account? What is going on? I feel like you forgot all your football knowledge. Only travel fatigue. I worry about Penn State Saturday, then back for Iowa Friday. Iowa's QB looks like trash or had an off day. Mike's just finding every negative.
Isn't that Minnesota game on a Thursday?
That sounds a very Minnesota-y gamey. Minnesota-y gamey to be a Thursday.
I gotta look it up because
you do.
That's the case, Nebraska plays Saturday.
We appreciate you. Maryland. How do you guys feel about Iowa's QB? I think he'll be an improvement, but I don't think he'll be that big of an improvement.
He sucks.
There's also that. Minnesota's on a Friday.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So it's the same thing as Penn State and Iowa then.
Yep.
Same turnaround. Because Minnesota will be a Friday night game. In fact, it'll be later. It'll be probably 7:30 kick.
Well, my mic says it's a Saturday game. Does anybody know?
No, I'm looking right here. It's October 17th. My daughter's birthday is the 18th, which I knew was a Saturday. So I was debating on taking it.
Mm-hmm. Friday, cool. Awesome. Glad we got that situated. But anything else, Brian? It is we had reached our hour. Is there anything else before we go to wrap up the show?
I wish people talked about me like they talk about Archie Wilson, man. Man, that guy is special. He truly is what Coach Rule said the other day. And then today, Coach Eck was loving on him. And that makes me feel good about our punting unit. That's the last thing I wanted to add. Just they are really blowing this kid up. And I hope he's as good as they say he is, because Coach Eckler's words today were he is going to be a damned weapon for Nebraska.
I think if Eckler's saying that publicly, I think you got a damn weapon on your team.
Yeah.
He knows a thing or two.
About a thing or two.
Because he's seen a thing or two. I don't know if that's how it actually goes. But
that is.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We appreciate y'all. As always, thank you for dropping your comments. Mike's schedule was wrong. Well, that's what we're here for. We're here to correct your schedule. I didn't even know what day of the week it was because I can barely think of what I'm doing tomorrow. So there's that. Tanisha coming in, got that big Cobb energy. Okay. Well, Brian, you're going to have to go deal with that. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate y'all per usual. And Brian, do you want to say anything else before you head up?
Nope. We're all good. We'll see y'all on Friday. Husker Gutter Collins show.
See y'all later. Yeah. Oh yeah. Friday at 7. Y'all remember that change. Friday at 7 p.m. Central, no longer Thursday. I'm glad you pointed that back out. So we'll see y'all then. Catch you later. Peace.